Welcome to the Geek Easy Fellow Geeks. Let's open a beverage of your choice. Because today, I'm going to review The Knives by Ed Brubaker. Yesterday I did my unboxing, read most of it yesterday, and then finished up the rest of it at lunch. Was it any good? Let me just answer it this way. It's Ed freaking Brubaker. It's Ed Brubaker. Does that answer the question? Let me just get into it right here. So, this is the new book in the criminal series. It deals with three people. Cartoonist Jacob Kurtz, Angie, and then we have Tracy Lawless. We have been introduced to these characters before, especially Tracy Lawless. Tracy Lawless, I think, being the one that reminds me that I know the best. But there is more than one story, but it's little segments of stories that go, interconnected over a period of 10 years. It starts out with Jacob Kurtz. He is on his way out to Hollywood because his IP, I think we all know what an IP is, was optioned by a producer in Hollywood. And he goes out there and starts to work on that, thinking, he's going to have a lot to do with how the show is done, and it's going to follow his work the way that it was in the comics and all that. And he gets just really disillusioned, and they're basically just F you, you're an executive consultant, but they don't pay attention to shit. They just they don't do a thing, close to his stuff because they just dumb it down. And he comes across his aunt, or he goes to visit his aunt, who is like early 90s at the time, who's being taken care of by some caretaker because she's older. And she and her husband he had lived briefly with them while visiting Hollywood as a kid. Her husband, his uncle, wrote old B movie sci-fi stuff and movies, and had a really good memories of them. And so he just basically they don't even bother kissing him first, if you understand, after they get done with him dealing with some stuff, and he goes back. And that is the first story. And then when you get to Angie, and his and Angie's life just sort of connect over the next few years. You see, her kind of origin, and then, just different things going on, and then it leads up to a thing with Lawless at the end. Well, you see Lawless come in like midway through, but then they don't go with that until the end. Because one of the things with Brubaker, with these books and these stories, is they'll jump to things and then say, okay, well, this happens. But we'll get to this later. And then, so the stories kind of jump around, and the stuff is filled in a little later. It kind of, I don't want to say it's Quentin Tarantino-esque, because I don't know who did that stuff first, but you understand the reference. It's, by the time the thing is done, you have the whole story and why, this happened, why, Angie came back to Jacob at this point and why she was distant. You don't understand at the time, but then, later on you're like, oh, okay, well, that's kind of messed up. And one of the things about Brubaker is this guy is such a brilliant writer. He tells so much with so little. And he pulls you in so quickly that you just don't want to let it go. It's just, you want to know more, and you keep going, and keep going, and keep going. And it's just, he's just, it's got this staccato kind of storytelling, writing, and it's simple little things, like a lot of those low-level, hey, I know that guy's celebrities hanging around the pool. That's a great way of saying, that a low-level, hey, I know that guy's celebrity. Everyone knows that celebrity that you see on TV or you see in a movie. So you know what that means. And it's a simple little sentence, but it says so much. And it's that's just the way he writes. It's he tells the stories say so much more than what's actually on the page, because you see that sentence and it just fills everything in. And so after you've read a story, there's a lot more being said in that story than just is what is on the page. And then you have Sean Phillips. Shouldn't put that one in there. His art. And Sean Phillips' son is in there. Does some stuff too. His art is just, there's a certain style to it that so benefits Brubaker's work. And, you have Angie here, right? He's not always his collaborator, especially like in the early stuff with Captain America, things like that, and the Daredevil stuff when he does stuff with the big companies. But when he does this and his underworld or his criminal stuff, and he does the other things, this is who he works with. Yeah, see, that's Jacob's aunt right there. And that tells as much of a story as Brubaker's words. And you put the two of them together, and it is just perfection. I mean, there is better art there, and if you watched the channel before, you know how I am with my art. And normally stuff like this, I don't want to say stuff like this, but but this the way this stuff goes together is just wow. So if you are a Brubaker fan, this is one of his better pieces of work. if you like noir stuff, if you like Brubaker, if you like his criminal stuff, this is exceptional. And one thing I thought was really funny, well, not funny, but you have Jacob going to Hollywood. That first story where he goes to Hollywood and he has his IP being optioned by a producer in the studios. I'm like, because Criminal is soon to be seen on Prime Video, right? And I'd looked into that last night. It's been being worked on for a while. And I was like, I wonder if there is, a connection between what is being written, this story, and what's going on behind the scenes. Because you have Jacob has his IP is being picked up by producers, and the producers, make him put him in the writing room and all this stuff, and they just basically, they trash the stuff and make it nowhere near as interesting. And there's some pretty, fucked up conversations going on in the story. And I was like, I wonder how much this has been experienced. This is from his own personal experience. Then at work, I start to read this, the afterword. Yeah, I'm not gonna say anything other than read read the book. Read the book first, especially the first story. Then read the afterword. And that will answer all your questions for you. And this is his second story that he does in the Underworld series. And I think, I keep saying Underworld, Criminal. I don't know why I keep saying that. World that deals with the comic industry. And I think the other one actually had, Jacob too. I think it was in Cruel Summer, which is one of the last book they put out. You had a guy who he goes to a comic convention and he is tasked with kind of taking care of and, being an assistant to this old-timer writer, which sort of, like a Kirby-esque type, who was one of the greats in the industry. Those guys, the non-Stan Lee kind. The greats who helped build the industry, and the guy basically, they didn't even knock the sand off first. Didn't even bother to kiss him first. If you're understanding the references, So it was kind of a scathing indictment of the industry and how they treat their talent, especially the greats. And so I was thinking about that when I was reading this first book, or the first story in this book, which is just kind of an updated version of, instead of comics, it's the streaming services in the studio system. But I'm getting too much into the weeds and too much into the stories. I don't want to give away too much. But let me just say, to answer my original question, is it any good? I'm giving it a 5 out of 5. This is an incredible read. It made me want to just go grab. I have the Ultimates books. Like there's 3 of them. I was just in my room a little bit ago getting ready for this. It makes me want to go and read through them all again. Because that's how good this was, and that's how good the other stuff was. And so just 5 out of 5. Get it, read it, you'll enjoy it. I don't think you really need to have read any of the other stuff first, because these are relatively self-contained. Everything you need to know is put into this book. You don't need to know anything else, from the other stuff to understand what's going on here. It's nice to know, the overall world is there, but you don't need to have read the other stuff. So, like I said, I'm 5 out of 5. Pick it up, read it, enjoy it. Anyway, let me know in the comments below whether you liked it or not, and what you thought of it. Like, subscribe, possibly share, most of all. Enjoy your Ed Brubaker.